Most men think getting a woman to open up is about asking the right questions. They're wrong. The questions don't matter. What matters is the state you're in when you ask them. I've watched countless guys try to connect with women by running through a mental checklist of deep questions they found online. And I've watched those same women give polite surface-level answers before checking their phones. Then I've watched other men ask something as simple as, "What's been on your mind lately?" And suddenly she's sharing things she hasn't told anyone in months. Same question, different result. The difference isn't the words, it's what those words reveal about who you are. Today, I'm going to show you the psychology behind why some men naturally create space for vulnerability, while others unknowingly shut it down. And by the end of this video, you'll understand 3 specific triggers that turn ordinary conversation into emotional connection. The third one is what separates men who women feel safe around from men who women keep at arm's length. Here's what you need to understand. Vulnerability isn't something you extract from someone. It's something people give when they feel a specific emotional environment. This isn't about manipulation. This is about basic human psychology. When a woman shares something personal, something real, she's not responding to your question. She's responding to the feeling she gets when she's around you. That feeling tells her whether it's safe to drop the mask she shows the rest of the world. Most men completely miss this. They focus on what to say, what to ask, how to seem interesting, and meanwhile, they're radiating the exact energy that makes people guard themselves. I'm going to break down the internal shifts that change everything, not tactics, not scripts, the actual psychological triggers that create connection. And I'm going to show you why the men who understand this don't just get women to open up. They become the person women want to open up to. There's a difference. Let me show you where most men go wrong. They treat conversation like an interview. They ask a question. They wait for the answer. They ask another question. They're trying to be interested, trying to be engaged, trying to show they care. But here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. Every time you ask a question and immediately wait for the answer, like you're filling out a form, you're communicating something, you need her response. You need her to give you something so you can figure out what to say next. That creates pressure. And when people feel pressure in conversation, they protect themselves. They give you the socially acceptable answer, the safe answer, the answer that doesn't reveal anything real. You walk away thinking the conversation went fine. She walks away thinking you're nice, but forgettable. Here's another mistake. Asking deep questions too early. A guy meets a woman and within 20 minutes, he's asking about her childhood, her fears, her dreams. He thinks he's going deeper. He thinks he's being different. But she doesn't know you yet. She doesn't trust you yet. And when you push for intimacy before trust exists, it doesn't feel deep. It feels invasive. She'll answer because she's polite, but she won't share anything that matters. And then there's the biggest mistake of all. You treat her openness like a prize you're trying to win. Like if you just say the right thing, ask the right question, be interesting enough, she'll finally reveal herself. That energy, she feels it and it tells her you're performing. You're not actually present. You're strategizing. And no one opens up to someone who's strategizing. Let me give you the framework that changes this. There are 3 psychological triggers that create the conditions for vulnerability. When these are present, people don't just answer your questions, they start sharing things they didn't plan to share. Trigger 1, comfortable silence. Here's something most people don't realize. The quality of your silence matters more than the quality of your questions. When you're comfortable with silence, when you're not rushing to fill every gap, when you can sit in a pause without needing to rescue the conversation, and you communicate something powerful, you're not afraid of depth. Most men can't do this. The moment there's a lull, they panic. They reach for another question, another topic, another joke. They think silence is awkward. But silence is where people think. Silence is where they decide whether to go surface or go real. If you can't handle silence, she can't go deeper because going deeper requires pause. It requires reflection. And if you're uncomfortable with that space, she'll stay where it's comfortable for you. Here's what this looks like in practice. You ask something simple. What's been occupying your thoughts lately? She gives you a light answer. Oh, just work stuff. Most guys would immediately ask about work, but you don't. You just nod. You sit with it. You let the silence breathe. And because you're not filling the space, because you're not rushing her to the next thing, she feels permission to add more. Actually, I've been thinking a lot about whether I'm doing what I actually want to do. That's the real answer. But it only comes when there's space for it. Comfortable silence doesn't mean being quiet. It means being grounded enough that you don't need constant stimulation. You don't need her to perform. You're fine either way. And that lack of need, that's what creates safety. Trigger to curiosity without agenda. Here's the second trigger. Curiosity without attachment. Most men ask questions because they want something. They want to impress her. They want to connect. They want to move things forward. And beneath every question is that subtle agenda. She feels it. When you ask a question and you're attached to the answer, when you're hoping she says something interesting so you can keep her attention, you're not actually curious about her. You're curious about what she can do for you. Real curiosity has no goal. You're interested simply because she exists, not because she might validate you, not because she might like you, because you genuinely want to understand how she sees the world. There's a huge difference. When you're curious without agenda, your questions change. They're not designed to get a specific response. They're designed to explore, what about that bothers you? Why do you think that is? How long have you felt that way? These aren't impressive questions. They're simple, but they work because they're not trying to get anywhere. They're just following her thread. And when someone feels like you're actually listening, not waiting for your turn to talk, not trying to steer the conversation somewhere useful, they relax. They stop performing. Here's what most men don't understand. People are constantly performing. They're managing how they come across, editing what they say, curating their image. It's exhausting. When you show up with genuine curiosity and no need for the conversation to go a certain way, you become the rare person she doesn't have to perform for. And that's when the walls come down. Think about the last time you felt truly heard. Not agreed with, not validated, just heard. Someone asks you something and actually listen to your answer without trying to fix it, relate it back to themselves, or jump to the next thing. How rare is that? That's what you're offering when your curiosity has no agenda. You're offering her a chance to be seen without being judged, evaluated, or managed. And people don't get that often. Trigger 3, emotional steadiness. Here's the third trigger, and this is the one that separates everything. Emotional steadiness. When a woman shares something real, something vulnerable, something she doesn't usually say out loud, she's watching for your reaction, not consciously, instinctively. She's checking. Is he going to flinch? Is he going to try to fix it? Is he going to make it about himself? Is he going to get uncomfortable and change the subject? Most men fail this test without realizing it. She says something personal and they immediately try to relate. Oh yeah, I totally get that. One time or they try to fix it. Have you tried? Or they get visibly uncomfortable and their energy shifts. All of that tells her the same thing. You can't hold what she's giving you. Emotional steadiness means you don't react, you receive. She tells you something heavy and you don't flinch. You don't rush to make it lighter. You don't fill the space with your own story. You just let it exist. That sounds hard. How does that feel? Or sometimes just a nod, just presence. Because here's what's happening psychologically. When you can hold someone's emotions without trying to change them, you become safe. You become the kind of person they can be real around. Most men can't do this because they haven't done it for themselves. They're uncomfortable with their own emotions, so they can't be comfortable with hers. When she says something vulnerable and you feel the urge to fix it, to lighten it, to redirect it, that urge isn't about her. It's about your own discomfort, and she feels it. But when you've sat with your own depth, when you're not afraid of emotional weight, you can be present for hers. You don't need to make it better. You don't need to make it lighter. You can just be there. That's rare. And that's the difference between a man women talk to and a man women share with. Think about the people in your life you actually open up to. It's not the people who have the best advice. It's not the people who ask the best questions. It's the people who don't need you to be okay. The people who can sit with you in the mess without trying to clean it up. That's emotional steadiness. And when you have it, you don't need clever questions. You don't need techniques. People feel safe around you. And safety is what allows vulnerability. So, what does this actually look like in conversation? Let's say you're talking to someone and you want to go beyond surface level. Here's how these 3 triggers work together. You start simple, not deep. Simple. What's something you've been thinking about lately? Notice there's no pressure in that question. It's open. She can take it anywhere. She gives you something light. Maybe she talks about a show she's watching or a decision she's trying to make. Most men would latch onto that and start a whole discussion about the show or give advice about the decision. You don't. You let silence sit for a second. You stay present. You're not rushing to the next thing. Then you follow the thread with genuine curiosity. What is it about that decision that's making it hard? Now she's thinking. And because you're not attached to her answer, because you're just genuinely curious, she feels permission to be honest. I think I'm afraid I'm making it for the wrong reasons. This is where most men mess up. They hear something vulnerable and they react. They relate it to themselves. They try to make her feel better, but you don't. You just stay steady. What would the right reasons be? You're not fixing. You're not redirecting. You're just holding space. And in that space, she goes deeper. This isn't manipulation. This is creating an environment where honesty feels natural, where she doesn't have to guard herself, where she can think out loud without being judged. That's all people want, to be seen without being evaluated. And when you can offer that, you become rare. Here's another example. You're talking, and she mentions something casually. I don't really talk to my family much anymore. Most men would either ignore it or ask a direct question. Why not? But that can feel invasive if trust isn't there yet. Instead, you just acknowledge it. That must be complicated. No pressure, no prying, just recognition. And because you're not pushing, she feels free to add more if she wants. Yeah, it's been that way for a while. You pause. You're comfortable with the silence. You're not rushing her. Then, if it feels right, you go one layer deeper. Not because you need her to open up, just because you're curious. Do you miss it, or does it feel better this way? That's a question that doesn't have a right answer. It's not trying to get somewhere. It's just exploring how she actually feels. And that kind of question asked from a place of steadiness and curiosity invites honesty. The key is this. You're not doing any of this to get a result. You're doing it because you're genuinely interested in understanding people. And that shift in intention changes everything. The philosophy beneath it all. Here's what all of this comes down to. Most men are trying to create connection by doing the right things, asking the right questions, saying the right words, being interesting enough, deep enough, engaging enough. But connection doesn't come from doing. It comes from being. When you're grounded in yourself, when you're comfortable with silence, when your curiosity is genuine, when you can hold emotional weight without flinching, you don't need to try to connect. You just do because people feel safe around you. They feel seen. They feel like they can stop performing. And that's what everyone is looking for. Someone they don't have to perform for. This applies beyond just romantic connection. It applies to every relationship in your life. The people you remember, The people who changed how you see yourself, the people you actually trust, they're not the ones who said the perfect thing. They're the ones who made you feel like you could be yourself. That's the skill, not asking better questions. Being the kind of person who doesn't need people to be anything other than what they are. If you want to go deeper into this, I've put together a free guide that breaks down the internal work that makes all of this natural. It's not about what to say. It's about how to shift your own internal state. So, connection happens without effort. You can grab it in the description below. No email required. Just take it if it's useful. Look, attraction and connection aren't random. They're not about luck or chemistry or saying the right thing at the right time. They follow emotional logic. When you create the conditions for vulnerability, when you're steady, curious, and present, people naturally open up, not because you ask them to, because they feel safe. And that safety, that's what creates everything else. Attraction, desire, trust, intimacy, it all starts there. So, stop focusing on the questions you ask. Start focusing on the person you're being when you ask them. That's the difference. If this resonated, leave a comment with one shift you're going to make. And if you want more like this, subscribe. I'll see you in the next.